You can't help but notice that AI is definitely a buzzword and being shoehorned in left, right, and center, and it doesn't always make a lot of sense. However, in this instance, it does make sense. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the beta version of JetEngine 3.6 from Crocoblock. Why do I think this makes sense? Let me demonstrate and show you what I'm talking about. First of all, you're going to need to download and install the beta unless 3.6 has finally been released, at which point, well, you just have to update. To do that, all you need to do is log into your account, scroll down through all the options you have, and you'll see beta releases, or beta releases if you're from the US. Don't go got me in the comments. You can see there's beta release. In this instance, it's 3.60 beta 2. Download it, install it on a test site only, not on a live site if you try the beta version, and then we'll take a look at how it works. Now, once installed, jumping into your dashboard, hopping over to JetEngine, you see in our submenu we have a new option called Website Builder. Now, this isn't going to technically build you a website at this point in time, but it is going to make life a lot easier, especially when it comes to working with dynamic data, which is what we're going to use JetEngine for. So let's open this up. And now we have two little prompts we can set things up on. First of all, we can explain or describe exactly what it is we're trying to do with the website. And then we can choose what functions we actually want included. So let's try something a little bit beyond just the basics. Let's try saying we want to create like a real estate website where we need to have properties and agents and so on. So we'll describe our website. So we're going to create a real estate website selling residential properties through commercial real estate agents. And it caters for all budgets. So there's our little bit of a description. Next up, we've got the functionality we want to include. But before we do take a look at that, it's worth bearing in mind this. Your prompt length. We are limited to 500 characters. And that includes the description and the functionality. So just bear that in mind. You are limited to the amount of characters you can use. Okay, so we dropped in 3 different features that we need to include. So we want the property details with full details about the property, the price, and so on. Include details about the agent selling the property, and also to categorize the properties by property tenure and property type. Now we could add more things inside here, and I would probably say if you are using this in a real world project, you probably want to be a little bit more descriptive. But this is a starting point. So now when we preview this, this will take up some of our AI credits. Yes, you do have AI credits, so bear that in mind. It depends what plan you have to how many credits you have every single month. But once we click this preview website model, that won't create anything. It will just show us the structure that it suggests, which we can then amend. So let's do that. Let's preview the website model. And there we go. Now we take a look. So first of all, I've used 5 AI credits. Now, there isn't 5 doing this one particular example. I've been testing this out, so this is only 1 credit used. However, please do bear in mind that if you make changes to this and you regenerate this model, it will take up additional credits. So every time you click generate or regenerate, it will take up a credit to do what you ask it to do. So it's always worth bearing in mind that you try to be as creative and descriptive as possible at the beginning, and the more you probably use this, the more comfortable you are with AI prompts, you're probably going to get closer to what you want quicker. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what is actually developed for us. The first column is our custom post types, and they're broken down into the information inside them. So for example, you can see our property includes the normal core features of title, editor, and thumbnail, so our featured image and so on. Then we've got taxonomies for property tenure and property type, meta fields for price, text, and so on, the location, features, checkbox, and so on, and the related entities. So we've got a relationship set up here, and you can see there's our relationship, our agent to property. So there's a relationship connected up there. Then if we take a look at the agents, you can see again it tells us what core features are included and any custom meta fields that it suggests including. It'll also tell you whether it thinks it makes sense to use a CCT, a custom content type, which is a native feature inside JetEngine. This helps you create a more streamlined database by putting that data in its own table. However, there are some limitations there. But depending upon what you're looking to create, a CCT might be a good option. So let's say we'll say, yes, we'll create a CCT there. Then we've got the relationship it suggests, which is the agent to property relation. So it tells us the parent is the agent, the child entities are properties, and it suggests a one-to-many relationship. In this example, we're talking about they can have many properties related to a single agent. Again, that makes sense. And it also tells us some filters it suggests creating. So this allows us to not only create the data and create the relationships, but also to set up the filters it recommends based upon what it thinks is going to make sense. Again, you can delete any of these if you want to. You can edit various different elements. So for example, you can see that we can come in and we can edit this property tenure. We can click and we can change the name of this if we want to. You can also remove these by clicking the little minus, and depending upon what suggestions it comes back with, these will change and you kind of get the idea. Now, once we're happy with all of this, and we'll say in this example we can click I understand, and then once I create the website model, this will then create the database structure and all those kinds of things. So let's do that. Create our website model. This is going to take a few moments depending upon the complexity of the actual setup you've got here. And bear in mind, this is a starting point, so you can still add, you can still change and edit various different aspects of this. And there we go. After a few moments, probably about 20 seconds, it's come back and given us a detailed overview, at which point we can easily jump into add posts, query, set up listings, edit our taxonomies, add content to our taxonomies, those kinds of things. Now, if we take a look on the left-hand side, you'll see we've got property, which is our new custom post type. Our agent, which is a CCT, you can see it's denoted by this little CCT symbol. And if we come into the relations inside there, you can see there's our agent to property relationship. So one-to-many tells us the information about it. Go in and take a look. You can see it allows us to make any change we may want to if it isn't doing exactly what we want. Come into property, for example. No posts found, but if we click to add a new property, you can see we can add the title, the description, the details, the price, location. Some features have been added in for us. Then we've got the parent relationship to the agent and so on. So we can connect the agent, our property type, our property tenure, and you can see we've already got some information pre-filled out. So property types, apartments, bungalows, and so on. Tenure. So you can come back out of this. Go and take a look, for example, at our taxonomy, so our property tenure. So that's pretty cool. So we've got everything we should need to start off with. And I think it's a pretty decent starting point. Now, like I say, we can get stuck in and customize this the way we want. It also includes our smart filter. So if we take a look at the filters, you can see this has created a price filter, which is a range filter, and a location, which is a select, so a drop-down list. Now, this is a really good starting point, and I think this can definitely speed up the process of doing quite boring tasks with setting database up relationships and so on. You still need to understand what's going on to be able to make changes, but it at least gets you probably 75% of the way there to get you up and running. You can start adding data in. Great if you want to prototype something and you don't have the time to sit there and do every single part of this yourself manually. However, there's still something I would love to see included. While this is creating the relationships if needed, to create the CCTs, the custom post types, taxonomies, pre-filling some data out inside there, I would love to see this actually create two additional things. The archive listing, which pulls in the data, maybe even including the filters if it's relevant, and also then the individual single post that pulls in the data as well. Now, this is something that you can do using Wix Studio, for example, which is something I've been taking a look at. So let me show you how that works with their AI. You'll see some similarities in how this works, but because it creates those two additional pages or templates, you are an extra step there to doing what you expect to be doing anyway, which is you're going to create those kinds of things anyway. So when you create a site inside Wix Studio, you can connect this up to a CMS, content management system. You can start from scratch like you could anyway, import information over CSV, but you can also create with AI. So let's choose the AI option and hit next. So this says, what are we going to do? Well, let's stick to the same kind of thing. We'll do properties. So again, we'll keep this relatively simple. So we're setting a range of residential properties covering all price ranges. And that's going to generate the collection of fields, in other words, the database table. As you can see, it tells us it's going to create property title, price description, and so on. So not as comprehensive using what I've just shown you here as what we can see inside something like JetEngine. But let's create the collection and also to generate some content for us. So we are, again, one step further forward. We've got some content to show us how the database is going to work. And then this shows us the actual structure. So you've got these basic information. So we've got the property title, price description, an image, location, and whether it's available for sale and so on. So there's the first part of this done. You can see we can default views. We can choose between table, list, gallery, and so on. So we can switch these if you want to. You can add additional items in if you want to as well. So now you've got your data created, you can do a couple of things. You can see we've got this. If you want to, you can add a dynamic page, or you can come to the more actions. And again, there's more actions inside here as well. So you can come into your collection settings. Collections are basically your database table. And this is a dedicated database table. So this is different to what you're seeing unless you created something with a CCT inside JetEngine. This is working slightly differently. But let's say we want to create the actual dynamic pages. Let's say add dynamic page. You can see we can choose between an item page and or a list page. We'll say we want both of those. Click add to site. That's now going to create those pages and pull in the relevant fields from the data. So we've got a starting point template, which we can then customize. So after a few moments, we now have those 2 templates created. There's our property list, which shows you some basic information pulled in from the database. And if we go and take a look at the property item, this will show us an individual item. But let me just give you my final thoughts. I think what they're doing with this inside JetEngine makes an awful lot of sense. It's a good way of using AI to handle boring, repetitive setup tasks. It also opens up the ability, if you're not comfortable understanding how relationships work and connecting those up, creating CCTs, maybe even set up filters, this gets you a good percentage of the way there. So you can build upon that initial sort of foundation and you can learn exactly how all these things work without having to go through all the documentation. So I like that aspect of it. I would love to see it expand and include the ability to create those templates we've just taken a look at, like you can do inside Wix Studio. I'd also like to see it actually populate some data. So while it's created the things like your taxonomies and so on, I'd love to see it just sort of pull in some basic data using AI. It knows its property website. It knows what data is going to go in there. So that would be pretty useful as well. The other thing I think is that this is the right direction to use AI. So I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table as they move forward and it starts to grow and expand. But as always, I would love to get your feedback on it. Drop a comment in the comment section down below. If you want to learn more about working with dynamic data, WordPress databases, and all those kinds of good things, check out this playlist next. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.